Hey everyone, welcome to Data Millennials. I'm Atul, and in this video we are going to discuss about a question which has been given us or submitted us in our comments by Kingstone 20 hours ago. So I believe this question is some sort of interview question. So I'm going to solve it in this video and post it right now. So let's go to this question first in detail. So I have copied that question and pasted it into a text, and the question says that you are organizing a football event across the city. You have a database with table scores, and then the columns are something like this: player ID, event ID, is participated, goals containing information regarding the player's ID, a flag for goal scored or not. 0 means the player didn't score a goal, and I means the player scored a goal. Okay, I believe instead of I there should be 1, because 0 or O means the player didn't score a goal. So okay, let's go ahead with I only. So we'll keep I, and that will mean that the player has scored the goal for each event denoted by the event ID. Okay, for each event, find out the number of players who scored a goal and number of players who didn't score a goal for that event ID and goal flag. The output must be sorted in ascending order of event ID and goals. Okay, so there are two things. First, we need to find out the number of players who had scored in each and every event, and we have to sort it by increasing order of event ID and the number of goals. So the first priority should be given to the event ID and then the number of goals. So there are few things that we need to first understand about the data. So I have created this dummy data over here in my Excel sheet where I say player ID, event ID, is participated, and goals. So this is what it was discussed over here or given over here in the comment: player ID, event ID, is participated, and goals. So we have only one table, 4 different columns, and we have to figure out the number of players who scored goal and the number of players who didn't score goal. So there are multiple ways to do it. One of the easiest way is to use the join. The second way to do is use the count distinct with case functions. So we're going to discuss about these two methods over here. Before we go ahead and write the query, let's first understand the data. So we have our player ID, we have our event ID, is participated or not, and goals. So I have kept I for goals as it was mentioned in comment, and 0 if player has not scored a goal. Okay, so what I have done is that I have created a player ID in different fashion. Says that okay, if a player is from team A and let's say his ID is 1, then I've said team underscore A underscore player underscore ID 1. So similarly, we have two different teams, team A and team B, and each team will have 15 different team members. Out of those 15 team members, there will be 11 team members who would have participated or played in that event, and 4 will be sitting outside the ground, right? So randomly I have chosen 15 team members from each and every team for each and every event. So if I select event ID 1, so I have here 30 different rows. So if we talk about the first 15 rows, then we have 15 players from team A which played in event 1, and there are 11 team members who played in this event while 4 were sitting outside. Out of these 11 team members, only 4 team member or only 4 player have scored a goal. Similarly, if we talk about team B, we have 15 team members who played in event 1, and there are 11 players who played in this game or in this event from team B, and they have scored 4 goals. Okay, so let's go to SQL Workbench, and what I have done over here is that I have created a table with player ID, event ID, is participated, goals, and I have inserted the data which I have shown you in Excel. Now the first thing that we need to do here is that we have to find out whether our data has been uploaded in our SQL Workbench correctly or not. So I'll simply write select star from football, which is my table, and let's run it. So I have 150 rows over here, and in my Excel sheet I had 150 rows, because what I have done over here is that I have taken 5 different events, and each event would have 30 players, where each team would have 15 players. Okay, now so here in SQL Workbench 150 rows are returned. So now I'm 100% sure that my data has been uploaded in SQL Workbench correctly. Now let's go back to his question. So his question was to find out the number of players who had scored in a game as well as who had not scored in a game. Okay, so first what we need to do is that we need to first find out the total number of events which is present in our table. So what I'll do is that I'll simply write select event ID, or let's put distinct event ID. From football, which is my table. Now I can see that I have 5 different events. Okay, and each different event would have 30 different players, right? So what I can do now is that with this event ID I can get the number of players who had played in these events, the total number of players. Okay, so I'll write count distinct player ID as number of players, and then after this I'll simply put group by 1. Now I can see that I have event 1 where number of players are 30, but as you can see in our data we have this is participated column. So what we need to do is that we need to put a filter says that get only the distinct players who had participated in that event. So I'll put a where condition here, says that where is participated equal to 1. Now this means that we have 22 different players. From each team we have 11 players, right? Now what we need to do is that we need to get the distinct number of players who had scored a goal. So what I'll simply do is that I'll copy this entire query and I'll create another query here where I'll simply put get event ID, then get the distinct player from this table football where they have participated, as well as if you go to your Excel file you will see goals, and this I means they have scored the goals, and I'll simply put goals is equal to I. Now if I run this query you will see that I'm getting event ID 1 where number of players is 8. This means that 8 players have scored goal in that event. So let's go to our Excel file first and let's put a filter over here. Then we'll select event ID 1. Then if I take the number of players, we have 30 players over here which we have got in our previous output. And if I filter out is participated 1, this means that they have participated. So there are 22 players who had participated in that event from team A and team B. Now if I filter out goals, you will see that I have 8 different players who have scored a goal in event 1 from both of these two teams. Okay, so our output is correct till this point. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm simply gonna take the first query which I have written over here as my first table, and I'm going to join this query with my second query which I have written over here to get the number of players who have scored in that event. So what I'll do is that I'll put this table as table 1. So I'll put select tb1.star from this, where my this query will be tb1, and then I'll use a left join to join my second query, and I'll put the tb2 as name for this second table, and I'll join it based on event ID. So I'll put on tb1 dot event underscore id equal to tb2 dot event underscore id. So I have got tb1 dot star. This means that when I run this query, I got event id and the total number of players, right? So let's keep it total number of players, right? Now from tb2, which is my this output, I just need number of players. So let's put it as number of players who scored goal. So I'll take this and I'll put it over here. Says that tb2 dot this. Okay. Now if I run this query, ideally I should get each and every event, then the total number of players who participated in that event, and the third column will be the total number of players who scored a goal. So let's run this query. Okay, so I'm getting event ID 1, total number of players 22, number of players scored the goal is 8. 11 is for event 2. Okay, now I need to get the total number of players who have not scored a goal. So what you can do is that you can simply minus 8 from this 22 and you will get the number of players who have not scored the goal, right? So what I can do is that I can simply take this 2 columns from here and I'll minus it. So I'll say tb1 dot total number of players minus tb2 dot number of player who scored goal as number of player did not scored. Okay, so let's run this query, and now we are getting event ID, total number of player participated in that event, number of player who scored the goal, and number of player who have not scored the goal. Now in the question, the gentleman has asked us to sort the data or to get the data based on event ID. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to order it by 1. This order by 1 means event ID, and then we have to give column 3, which is number of players scored the goal. So this was the requirement. Okay, so this was the first way of solving this problem. The second way, or you can say the easiest way to do that, is by using the case and count distinct function. So I'm going to write that now. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to get the event ID, right? So what I'll do is that I'll simply write select event ID from football. Okay, and if I run this, I'll get the entire list of event or the entire rows, right? Now what I need to do is that I need to get the number of players who participated in that game. Okay, so what I can do is that I can simply write count distinct and I can say player ID to get the distinct number of players. But remember, we have 30 distinct players in each game from team A and team B. Team A has 15 players, team B has 15 players. Team A has only 11 players who participated while 4 players were sitting outside, right? So in simpler terms, we have 15 players in each team, so we'll get 30 different player ID, right? As number of players. So if I run this now, okay, before running it I need to put a group by function over here, group by 1. Okay, now if I run this, you will see that okay, I'm getting event ID over here and then the number of players, but we needed the number of players who had participated in the game. So what I can do is that after this distinct, I can simply write a case statement which will specify whether the player ID, this player ID, has played or participated in that game or not. So what I'll do is that I'll simply write a case statement, says that case when is underscore participated is equal to 1, then get the player ID, else end it Okay, now so I have one bracket over here and another bracket over here. Okay, now you will see that for each event you will have 22 different players who had played in an event. So let's run this query. Okay, now we are getting total number of player for each event 22. The next thing that I need to do is that I need to get the number of players who scored in that game, right? So I'll simply write count distinct, and then again we'll put a case statement saying that case when is participated equal to 1, and if you remember there was a flag which says that if the goal has been scored by a player then there is a flag I, right? So I'll put goals equal to I, then get player ID as number of player scored goal. So what we are doing over here is that we are filtering the player ID from this table where is participated equal to 1, so that he has participated in that game, and goal is I, this means that he had scored a goal, and then we are getting the distinct count of this player ID. So if I run this, okay, there is some error. Okay, I have missed putting the end statement over here. End. Okay, so let's run it. So now you can see that we have event ID 1, number of players 22, and number of players scored a goal is 8. So this is what we also got in our previous query, right? If I run that, you have event ID 1, total number of players are 22, number of players scored goal is 8, and the last part that we need to get is that number of players who have not scored the goal. So we can also get that using this count distinct part. So I'll simply copy this part, I'll paste it over here, and I'll just change the condition a little bit, where I'll say that the player ID should have participated and goal is 0. This means that they have not scored any goal in that game or in that event, and I'll rename it as number of players not scored goal. Okay, now if I run this, I'm getting event ID, number of players scored goal, and number of players not scored. So both of these two outputs are same. If you compare this output, you will see that the output is same. So let's run our previous query. Okay, so I have selected this one also. So we are getting 5 records where we have number of players, player who have scored the goal, and the players who have not scored the goals. So these are the two different ways you can get output for this question. And Mr. Kingstone, if I have not understood your question properly, or I have misunderstood your question and I've given you a solution which doesn't make sense to you, please do let me know. I'll try to solve your question as soon as possible. So happy learning and see you in the next video.